In this video, I will attempt to complete the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom using only Zonai equipment. This Ascension race has a wide variety of weapons, and any fusions I create will also use Zonai materials. I will need to defeat 4 enemy hordes, 6 bosses and 3 phases of Ganondorf consecutively, and I'll be doing all this with only 3 hearts, 1 stamina wheel, and without increasing any of Link's stats like attack, defense, speed, stamina or yellow hearts. And of course, I won't be using any fairies. So with that said, let's begin. After retrieving the Master Sword and leaving the cave, I will need to collect some materials and complete the shrines. The first one is the simplest of them all, and even though Rauru says he doesn't have a physical form, he's impossible to pass through with any object, just one of those weird things in life. In the second shrine I fused 3 rocks to advance, which I also used to get the key and reach to the end, where I defeated a construct with the rocks and obtained the first weapon in this video, a construct bow. I continued gathering materials and arrows, and in the third shrine I cut the ropes using a construct arrow and a fire fruit, and I also found a second bow. Next up was obtaining the recall ability in the Temple of Time. It's enough to use this skill in the final shrine to send the Master Sword back in time, which then allows Zelda to open the way to Surfers of Hyrule for us. And no, I didn't forget to toss a Korok into the void while exploring the island. I headed to Pura, then went to the castle and returned to her to get the paraglider. I pulled off a little magic with some bombs and headed back to the castle to find the cursed statue and remove 1 heart. I made my way through the caves using bombs, and if you're wondering, yes, I did die from an explosion here again. Seriously, I don't do it on purpose, but it's pretty much a tradition in videos like this, and I sold my soul to the devil. Next, I needed to gather weapons and the Zonai armor pieces. To do that, I headed to the Great Sky Island and used a Zonai wing to fly to the Zonai Forge. Well, actually I used 2 wings, since each one only lasts a limited time. I reached the top, but I had to open the way to the forge by activating this device. I crossed through the laser beams and obtained some Zonai devices and some weapons, like a Zonai spear, a Zonai sword, a reinforced construct bow, as well as a Zonai shield and a claymore. Here I also got the first piece of Zonai armor, the Zonai chest piece. I made a few fusions using Zonai materials and prepared some cold resistant dishes, since the strongest Zonai weapons can be easily found in the Lumail labyrinths. So I headed to the one in Hebra first. To get there, I tamed a horse and turned it into all-terrain mount by pushing it up parts of Elden Mountains. I needed to reach the Umbra ruins to activate the Skyview Tower and quickly get to the first labyrinth with the help of wings. After 4 attempts, I finally landed on one. I dove into the labyrinth and I found my first Zonai bow. For the next weapons, I used an interactive map to locate the chest, as the walls in this labyrinth can be climbed, so I had to use the springs to get out of these areas. Then I went to the surface labyrinth, where I obtained even more weapons, like larger Zonai spears, more bows, powerful shields, and of course additional swords and claymore. I checked Rauru's protection in this area to see if there was anything interesting, and I only found a diamond. So I decided to get the better Zonai materials for my fusions and headed to the Water Temple, gliding from the Zonai Forge. I defeated some constructs here, including a flux construct which killed me. I thought I could dodge it by going underneath, but I returned undefeated by disassembling it and attacking its weak point. I fused its roller to one of my weapons, and every weapon needs to be fused with a different material to add variety. I kept going, defeating more enemies and got a great construct bow. Then from the temple I headed to the skies of Akala to get the next armor piece. I activated this device to use these catapult-like structures and reached the orb, where I obtained the Zonai grips. Zonai weapons have decent damage, and their attack power doubles when fused with Zonai materials. Note, only the weapons damage doubles, not the materials. While they do good damage, their durability is a bit low. Both the Zonai sword and the Great Zonai Claymore have a durability of 18 points, but the Zonai spear has 27 points, and all these weapons gain an additional 25 points when fused with any material. To increase my damage output a bit, I decided to defeat more enemies and bosses to boost Link's experience, so that on the next Blood Moon the stronger Captain constructs will respawn, allowing me to deal more damage with my weapons. So yes, I glided to various Supreme Flux constructs and regular enemies to gain experience, and since 2 of these Supreme constructs were near the location of the final armor piece, I decided to grab it once and for all. It was easier than I remembered. I just had to lower the island water level, align all the mirrors with the light, and that opened the access to the chest with the Zonai helm. I kept healing myself with materials because my cold resistance wasn't at level 2. Then I went to fight 2 more supreme constructs in this area and gain a bit more experience. Now I headed to the depths to defeat a few Lionels. While I was at it, I gathered some dazzle fruits and pop shrooms. I proceeded to defeat 6 Lionels in a row using the same method as in past challenge, waiting to dodge their attacks and finding the right moment to mount them and strike their backs, which doesn't consume weapon durability. Honestly, I wasn't too interested in their materials, but I did get a few arrows and died a couple of times in the process. Now I decided to wait for a blood moon to occur, which only took about half an hour. I returned to check if the captain constructs I defeated had leveled up, but the answer was no. So yes, I defeated those enemies and bosses for nothing, but at least I collected various materials. I then prepared a few dishes to heal hearts lost by the gloom damage and to restore health, limiting myself to just 10 of each type. I fused materials onto my weapons, I headed to the castle, and these will be my weapons for the monsters and all bosses. The full Zonai armor, 3 Zonai bows, 2 great construct bows, 2 shields of each type, 3 great Zonai swords, 3 great claymores, and 3 Zonai spears. All are varied weapons with different functions to mix things up, to avoid using only the strongest options and to add more difficult. Regarding materials, I only carry a maximum of 50 of each type to prevent overuse, so I'll only bring 50 bombs, 50 Zonai charges, and just a few other materials. I have my 10 dishes of each type and some Zonai devices as well. I dove straight into a castle chasm, encountered some horriblins, and simply distracted them with dazzle fruits to climb past them. I avoided the electric keys and also a white main liner here, as I didn't find it necessary to defeat it. In the ice enemy area, I had to take down a few keys to make it through. I then jumped down and crossed the bridge, where I used Ascent to avoid the gloom hands, froze the moblin and this bokoblin to keep them from causing trouble. For the Gyptos, as usual, I exploded and burned them to collect the ribcage, which will be useful. I kept moving forward until I reached the final battle area. I used the Zonai charges I have collected to increase my batteries, and my equipment was mostly unchanged, with only a bit of one bow durability is up, so I dived toward the first enemy horde. I confused the great bokoblin to help me take down some of the regular bokoblins, did several bomb parries, great for taking out weaker enemies and throwing some off cliffs, and took down the rest with the sneak attacks thanks to the pop shrooms. At the end, I always freeze the big bokoblin to throw it to the void, but this time I wasn't sure how it died, so I had to freeze a black bokoblin instead. For the Salfos, I blinded them with a dazzle fruit and defeated them all with the sneak attacks, but I died. I had to repeat the previous horde, and this time I did freeze the big bokoblin. I didn't record every death, but believe me, I made several attempts with this horde. I defeated the Salfos, then faced the Gyptos, which I took down with bomb parries and fair fruits. This is the easiest horde of all. Finally, there's the moblin horde, where I used a dazzle fruit to disarm them and attack them stealthily within the smoke of pop shrooms. This way they basically don't attack you unless the one detects you outside the smoke. And now it was time for the 6 bosses. First up is Colgera, but don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoy this type of videos. Plus the subscribe animation is really cool. As for Colgera, you already know the drill. He goes down without needing weapons. I just shot a few arrows at his weak spots to avoid problems with his attacks and speed things up a bit. When it came to Marble Goma, there was no need weapons either. I just spent about 20 minutes returning its projectiles during both the first and second phases, doing this to manage my resources more effectively. But for Magtarok, I had to start using my weapons. With the help of my spear fused to an opal, I countered its mod attacks and exposed it so I could strike, and here my first weapon of the video broke. The second phase is almost the same, but with the help of arrows and Kiss A-balls, I prevented it from escape so I could attack, and it wasn't much of a challenge. For the Kungibdo, it's enough to use my bows and shoot her with electric arrows to knock her down, then shoot her in the head with rib cages from her own kind. In her second phase, all you need to do is destroy the hips with bomb arrows and defeat the Gyptos in the same way as before. Now just keep dodging her tornadoes and keep firing arrows until she's done. The 6th construct is the hardest of all until you get kind of it. I stunned it with my spear fused to a cannon and quickly approached to push it in into arrows with a spin attack. Thanks to the Zonai armor, my cannon's battery consumption is very low. The construct's attacks are fast. And honestly, there was one that scared me so much I opened the menu to heal, thought it wouldn't have help. The second phase is the same but with more arms. Just stay alert to its jumps, neither too far nor too close, so you can stun it without hurting yourself with your own explosions. I pushed it a few more times to the edge and then it was time for Phantom Ganon, the last boss before the final one. Phantom Ganon don't have too much health, so I used my bows again to conserve my weapon for the end. I tried to hit multiple enemies with bomb arrows to avoid wasting durability and dodging their attacks while I continued firing arrows. Once there were only 2 left, I switched the bomb arrows to monster parts for the extra damage. Unfortunately, the second phase is almost the same, though the Ganons use a different and mostly ineffective attack. So I defeated them the same way, and then the real deal was up next. I removed some fusions I no longer needed to fuse better options, ensuring each weapon had a unique fusion for each fight. I was left with just about 1.5 orbs, which I want to use against Ganondorf unless as a last resort. I still had 3 shields, 7 weapons and 4 untouched weapons. Let's see if that's enough for Ganondorf's 3 phases. So drop your predictions in the comments. I reached the final boss, the king of all bosses, and it's time to take him down. As usual, his first phase is straightforward once you have the timing down for perfect dodges. However, one of my claymores broke, so I kept dodging and managed to defeat him. Now it's time for the second phase with double the health of the previous one. I kept counterattacking and honestly I'm not sure how I managed to dodge one of his clones. I hadn't noticed it until it was really close. Not long after, my strongest spear was no more, but I still had 5 more weapons, and the 1 versus 1 had begun. A sword broke right at the start, and even though I have the Demon King's moves pretty well mastered, he still managed to land a few hits. I healed up and then my second to last spear broke, leaving me with just 3 weapons, only 2 of which were intact. I started to doubt they will be enough to finish this, but I kept dodging. He destroyed one of my hearts, and this didn't stop me from continuing to dodge it and literally came to nothing. But as expected, I was able to defeat it. But the worst was yet to come, facing a dragon with 5 weak points and only 3 weapons left. After an epic cutscene and obtaining the Master Sword, it was time to try and finish what I started. I unequipped the Master Sword, fused some material to my spear and doubled straight toward the dragon. I just kept circling around until I destroyed the first weak point, breaking my strongest claymore in the process. I switched to the spear and managed to destroy the point with 4 more to go. For the second point, I attacked several times with my spear, but it was already damaged, so it broke as well. Now I was down to just 1 weapon, and things were starting to feel impossible. With a few swings of my last claymore, I managed to destroy this weak point. Then I aimed for the third, dropping some bombs along the way and barely escaping unharmed. I had about 1.5 bows left and a few materials, so I decided to go all in with arrows, trying to get as far as I could in this fight. I managed to finish off this weak point and something really funny happened. I literally took a tour around the whole body of the demon dragon, but fortunately I survived. I headed to the second to last weak point using my last weapon combined with a few arrows. Unfortunately, my Zonai bow broke, though I still had 1 more. I finished off this weak point, leaving just 1 more to go, and the final challenge was to destroy the God Stone that caused the catastrophe in the kingdom, the secret stone of the Zonai in the middle of the Blood Moon Night. I dodged his dark projectiles as I only had 1 horde left, knowing a single mistake will be fatal. I landed determined to destroy the stone with my claymore and a few arrows. Unfortunately, my last weapon broke, leaving me with practically nothing for the final stretch. So I decided to use an old trick that helped me in the past challenges, my ace up my sleeve. I tried fusing a golem horn to a shield, but the demon dragon almost killed me. I returned to his head, making sure to fuse and attack his stone with fairies, until finally a simple horn fused to a Zonai shield managed to end the threat. And you all know the rest. For the final blow, the Master Sword is a must to finish off the demon dragon. But ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed possible to complete Zelda Tears of the Kingdom using only Zonai equipment and materials, even though they aren't the strongest. These are the kinds of challenges you'll be seeing next on the channel, so make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a like so you don't miss out. These videos take a lot of work to make, and your support helps me keep them making it. Thank you so much for the support and all the challenge ideas. Here is another challenge that is one of the more requested, so go ahead and click it. See you there.